Now that we've managed to actually bring our data set in, let's look at some commands to explore that data set a little bit.
Okay, so now let's say we want to find the number of rows and columns in our data frame. We could do that using shape. So I'm going to type right here df.shape, press enter, and there you go. It gives us the rows and columns. So 243,462 rows and 53 columns. Right. So we could also look at what the column names are. We do that using columns. So df.columns. Right. Do that. And we see, these are all the names of the columns. So W underscore geocode, C000, CA01, and so on, all the way down to create date. Right? So basically, this just prints out all of the column names. What if we wanted to look at the first few rows? Right? We could use the head method. So we do df.head, and then open close parentheses, and there you go. Notice that the indices for these go from 0 to 4. That's because Python starts indexing at 0, so the first 5 rows are 0 through 4. We could actually also get the first 10 rows by putting the 10 within the parentheses. So df.head, and then 10. All right, so now this gives us the first 10 rows. Right. So notice one thing here that in the first two we used .shape and .columns. We didn't have a parentheses there, but with head we had parentheses, and that's because there's like this subtle difference between these two in that shape and columns they're instance variables, whereas head is a method. That is to say, shape and columns are basically attributes of this data frame object that we're accessing. So this data frame object has this attribute of shape, the number of rows and columns. And all we're doing is we're printing out the values in that attribute. For head, though, we're actually using a function. And so basically a method is a function that's specific to a certain type of object, in this case a data frame. And so when we apply it to a data frame object, what we get is this output. So, this head, open close parentheses, you need that open and close parentheses for head because it is a method. It is a function that you apply to data frame. And as you can see here, we can actually give arguments. The default for head is 5, and so that's why we got an output even though we didn't put anything there. But, we can put, for example, 10 here to get the first 10 columns. All right, so moving on, let's say you want to get the last 10 rows instead of the first 10. We could use that using tail instead of head. So df.tail, tail, and this gives us the last 10 rows. All right, so now what if you want to get only certain columns? We can just do that using df and then open bracket, close bracket, and then in quotes, put in the column name. So I'm just going to do C000. That's the total number of jobs within that block. And as you can see, it prints it all out. Basically, since there's so many, it does this ... just to show that there's a lot in the middle that it's skipping out. Right, so let me double click that to kind of collapse it down so that we don't see it and doesn't clutter everything up. We can actually also do the same thing using .c000. So basically the output from this is the same as the output from this. This is just a different way of accessing a column. Right? So output's the same. Right. So let's say we wanted to access specific rows and specific columns. We could use the .loc to do that. So let's try it out. df.loc and open brackets. Let's say we want to access rows 10 through 20. Now remember, these are the index. This is index 10 through index 20. So that would be the 11th row, starting at the 11th row. And then let's say we wanted to, let's first try that, right? So recall that, again, this is the, index 10 through index 20. Basically, there's 11 rows here and 53 columns. We didn't specify how many columns. We can actually, so basically, if it only has one argument, this 10:20, that's one argument there. It only takes those rows. And we can also give it a second argument that specifies the columns. So let me actually do df.loc, do 10 through 20 again, and then let's put in C000. Okay, and so if you notice up here, these are the C000 values, 14, 3, 1, 9, 3, and so on, and this is just exactly what we get. We can actually also give it multiple columns, and so we do that using a Python list. And so let me actually first write the code and then kind of explain the parts of it. So df.loc, open bracket, so this is all the same, and then I'm going to put in within square brackets, put in C000, comma, CA01, right? So there you go. We see the columns C000 and CA01. And here, basically, this part right here is just a Python list. It's just another type of object. And basically, we're able to include all of the rows that we want in this way. You could include more there. You can, for example, if I put in CA02 and CA03, that'll give me even more rows. But you have to include it inside a list so that it's just taken as one argument. One thing that I just want to kind of give you a look at, this, if you just output it, just outputs that as the list. Let me do type, and it's a list. Right? So basically, this is how you can kind of access different indices, different columns, and you can just look at different parts of the data frame in this way.